If you're joining us, you're you're joining us on YouTube. I just admitted to Natalie last week and today again that I can't stop singing a stupid My Little Pony theme song except with the word Secret Invasion. And it's, on Sundays, it almost drives me crazy because that's when we record and that's when I think Secret Invasion stuff the most. Thanks for joining us. Here we are. This is the unedited version of the podcast. Listener of the week. You guys know him. You love him. Or not. It's Internet Trey Irby.
Hell.
Internet Trey Irby.
What? Not internets. Just internet.
Yeah. Well, that's like his name on Twitter and Instagram or something like that. Both, maybe. Yeah. Internet.
Does real life Trey Irby get a dilly bar for Internet Trey Irby's accomplishment?
If I see Trey Irby again, not to make that sound morbid, but if next time I see Trey Irby,
he's just gonna get in the car and come see you now.
Hey,
get his dilly bar.
Trey's pretty welcome at my house. I would think he probably wouldn't bother too much. He loves cats. I've got 3. I mean, we're in the same boat.
Made in the shade.
Made in the shade. Good old Trey. He did respond to me online about Listener of the Week. So, also, plus a bonus shout out to Samantha Simmons. She inquired if the dilly bars are retroactive because she got Listener of the Week last summer.
See, you're
so did I, and I still haven't got a dilly bar.
You're throwing a lot of promises around.
I am.
People are coming calling now. Checks to cash.
If you watch the YouTube version, which is where this segment's located now, solely exclusively, there is a dilly bar that pops up on the screen.
I love that.
Like now. There, grab it. So, yeah.
Grab it. Take it home.
No, I told you guys, and I've never admitted this on air, I emailed Dairy Queen and was like, look, every week we do Listener of the Week and promise them dilly bars. Can you send us coupons and we'll just mail them? And they were like, you would have to contact your local one or something. And then I don't know that I ever heard from the local one around here or something. It's been a year.
I think you should try again. The promise of the dilly bar is it's our only draw.
A lot of people really did like it last summer. I don't think as many people were onto it because it's kind of a YouTube thing. We put our little goofiness on YouTube because you can see our reactions, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I would just call it a beloved segment. Bo Hicks went out of his way to give me a dilly bar when I saw him last August. So
there is that story, yeah, and we might have told that on air, but Bo Hicks, Tuscaloosa legend, gave you a very literal, a box or just one?
Well, he presented to me and John Calvin Abney and Spencer Duncan, who was playing bass with me on those little acoustic shows that we did. They were very, very excited. And Bo, to his credit, had worked pretty hard to put that together.
Well, that's Bo in a nutshell.
That
story.
It was commitment to a bit. Because he wasn't sure. He knew that Natalie was vegan, wasn't sure if I was, and so went out of his way to find out if I could eat it or not. And did this all very secretively.
That's right. He called me to ask if you could have a dilly bar. And then 2 minutes later, Jeff called me to ask if you could have a dilly bar.
Right. He had people working the case.
Bo Hicks, one of the last men standing that will call rather than text.
A monster.
Last man standing.
Just kidding.
In
one
his
of the
generation.
calls I will take.
If my phone rings, I'm a little unhappy before I look and see who it is. If it's Bo, yeah, Natalie's seen me freak out before. But who is calling me? Why would they call me? All these before I even get my phone turned around to see who it is. If I turn it around and it's Bo, I think, you know what? Next 5 minutes are about to be better than they probably would have been otherwise.
Same here. There's only about 3 people I answer the phone for on the first call. They know who they are.
Blaine, I bet it's been years since I called you on the phone.
Yeah. 8 or 9.
Probably.
Yeah. We'll throw it in an email before we'll call each other.
We got stuff going on, man. Let's get on the phone.
So, Internet Trey Irby won Listener of the Week this week. That reminds me because he replied in Threads, which is kind of where I wanted to take this. Neither of you have joined Threads via Instagram.
I don't totally understand what Threads is.
I mean, the short form is it's Instagram, Facebook's answer to Twitter. Yeah. Yeah. Looks a lot like it. Works a lot like it. It's just right now, don't know how long this will last. The timeline is very random. And obviously it's not in chronological order, but you also see a lot of like content. Like you see a lot of blue check mark people, like you'll think to yourself, I don't follow them. Why? So they just throw things at you. Very much like Facebook started to do.
Say Instagram already does that in their normal feed.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's in the same vein. It's like that minus pictures and more supposedly conversation oriented. I'm telling you, man, if they would just go in and fix that timeline, make it chronological, make it where it's only people you see or retweets, whatever they call them, rethreads, it would be really cool. Because the appeal to me instantaneously was, all I did was press like 3 buttons, import from Instagram, boom. Do I want to follow everybody from Instagram? Yes, click. And it's like, boom, everybody just, and mine's on private, so I'll have to approve people to do it. But like for the Alabama Take, as long as they're on Threads, they're in my follow. And it's just like instantaneous. So it very intelligently did that to grab hold of what Twitter is, people bailing on Twitter and whatnot.
So when Zuckerberg and Elon have their battle at the Coliseum, is that when you make your final decision about Twitter versus Thread?
No, I think I'm just hanging on to Twitter just to watch its death knell.
Rough.
The death rattle.
Yeah. And it's getting close. This weekend has been barren on Twitter. And I wanted Adam to comment on it because he's on Twitter and kind of kept up with the downward spiral.
It just felt like the people who had spent so much time and loved a form so much, and people who got really, really good at it, but also kind of hated it too. People have such a funny relationship with Twitter of like, this is horrible for me as a person and us as a society, but I'm still making this point on Twitter in like a really funny way that brings me joy.
Yeah.
So that those first few times where it was like, this is it, the coding is tearing apart at the seams, it's all going to fall apart. It was pretty funny. It was like a very low stakes, the ship is going to go down and we're just going to ransack it as it does and just dance on the grave. I don't know now. I've read a lot of people wondering aloud if maybe the form itself is going to die.
And that's something you've lamented on in private to me.
I don't know. I don't lament. It's just kind of like these things can have their cultural moment and maybe we don't always have to, like nothing needs to replace it.
You don't have to replicate
it. Right. And we're maybe in a moment where 5 years from now, something that will feel very obvious has taken that energy, not its place, but that kind of like, Facebook circa 2008 or Twitter in its heyday. I don't know what year you would call that. Instagram when it was still fun, something new emerged from just like that was, I think we all thought that those were the final forms of the various social medias that came before, but maybe it just cannibalizes itself every few years and something new comes.
Yeah. I made a short list of the wannabes and the current ones. There's Post. Who knows what's going on there? I've stopped using it. I did check it out. There's Mastodon, which was kind of cool for a second, but it's very weird. The vibe there.
It feels closest to me to like Reddit or something like that, where if you...
It's a little nerdy, yeah.
Yeah, because you have to like join something immediately. You can't just, right? Am I right about this? You have to be
That's right.
like a part of a network in a way that almost felt like a subreddit. And some of the people that I follow on, because my Twitter, when Twitter is doing its thing, I pretty much only get sports news, very absurdist takes on college football, and music stuff. And specifically the music world that's around like the Grateful Dead, but also like Yo La Tengo and bands like that have kind of captured some of the... We won't get into that. Those people went to Mastodon.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, and so there's a Grateful Dead one that I was like, well, I'll just join this one because these few journalists that I enjoyed reading about non-Grateful Dead things are there. But like I've barely used it, you know? But they seem to be posting a lot about, like most of them are in New York, and so they post about the shows they're going to in New York and blah, blah, blah. So it seems like it could be a thing, but that's never going to be Twitter. That's never going to have like the momentum that Twitter had, where like you had to see what XYZ people were saying on there about world events.
It just lacks a initial intuitive function in the immediate steps, but it gets very user-friendly shortly after. It's just those... If you don't make it easy in the first step, people are going to bail.
Right. And you have to make a decision about joining a community before you even understand what they are.
Right.
That's very confusing.
Which brings me to Blue Sky. Same thing, but there's none of that. You just sign up. And it says, do you want to just join the Blue Sky big network? It's that we're using their own terminology. And, you know, I think almost everyone just hits yes. Blue Sky has a lot of problems. They're just not rolling it out fast enough, and I think Threads has beaten them. It's amazing, but you still have to have an invite code to get there. But it's Twitter, but like better, friendlier, looks good, you know. And then there's Threads, which Elon Musk came out and said you can only see 600 or 800 tweets a day, you know, for a little while or forever, who knows. And then Threads jumps on that, rolls out their stuff Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and like everyone was on there. It was like, well, I say everyone who was on there felt like early days of something internet. Everyone was like, oh, what are we doing?
How do we... Google Plus action.
It felt a little Google Plus, but it also had a ton more users. Like I said, you had everybody from Instagram just rolling over into that feed. And, you know, James Spann's really big on Threads. Like, he's like a proponent is what I mean. He's also probably got a lot of followers too, but he's a big proponent.
He's an investor.
I think he could be, but he's like, this is really cool. I can post pictures on Instagram that people send me of the weather and the skies and dogs and stuff, and I can come over here and drop tidbits about what's happening on day-to-day weather or storm warnings and stuff. But
you know,
he's like me and thinks the timeline still needs a lot of cleaning.
Yeah, when Elon did the thing about restricting the number of tweets, it was like Saturday morning, right? And so I was like drinking coffee and like catching up on soccer trade rumors basically, and just burned through those tweets. And then we had, you know, severe weather in Alabama in late June, early July is pretty rare that it's anything more than like loud thunder. And we had some stuff roll through. It's like, well, I better check the National Weather Service out of Huntsville and see what they're saying. And I couldn't use Twitter. Which is how I like got all of my weather. Like, you know, I would like to know if a tornado is coming my way or not. So it's funny how dependent on that stuff we got, and how just like recklessly irresponsible it was of him to do that.
Yeah,
I can't even see it because I deleted my Twitter several years ago.
The account or the app?
Yeah, I deleted my account. And if you don't have an account, you can't view tweets at all anymore.
Oh, that's right. That is right. I forgot about that little thing he implemented.
Which, I don't know if he thought that would be like an incentive for people to make an account, but it was just like nail in the coffin. Like, absolutely not. I'm not going back to that. That's so stupid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Facebook's, you have to click on, if you're in the app, you have to click on feed at the bottom, and then it'll sort it chronologically for you with a few less ads. But
the dechronologicalization, did I just invent a word?
That's cool, man.
Every app did that at some point, right? Like Facebook used to be like a clean,
yes,
but it would be like Blaine Duncan is drinking coffee, and whatever, that old thing.
Yeah.
That Twitter being in order, Instagram being in order. I mean, I remember in younger days when all of my friends would be out into the wee hours of the weekend. Like, if I wasn't waking up on Saturday morning and just catching up on like a play-by-play of their shenanigans.
Mm-hmm.
That was always fun. Sporting events, news events, whatever. For both of these, why did they take them out of order? All of them did.
It's advertising. Is about the only thing. It's got to be money related, and I'm not smart enough to tell you the exact reason how that helps generate money.
Right.
It keeps you scrolling, looking for
things. You
have
to click around more. That's the only thing I could come up with, because you could drop ads in the middle of a feed otherwise.
Yeah, I wish they would. Okay. Anyway, it's just really interesting how it caught on like wildfire, and everyone was using it for the first 2 nights.
Has it cooled down since then?
A little bit. One thing I noticed is that once your friends start rolling in from Instagram, your feed gets a little bit more of your friends. So it's like when you only had 10 people you were following, then that's when you saw people like Paris Hilton in your feed, and you're like, I don't know why I'm seeing her. But then once you get 50 people, it's a little bit more like, okay, day of, internet Trey tweeted or threaded this, whatever you call it.
What, because we all just joined Facebook and approved people, like made friends kind of en masse when it first started. And then kind of figured out that maybe we should curate our Twitter and Instagram a bit more. And there's people who are like a great Instagram follow, but pretty boring on Twitter, and vice versa. So using Instagram to launch your Twitter-esque experience seems not ideal.
It's interesting. I made the point I said, you know how this is going to be confusing, right? You're going to treat it like Twitter and forget that your audience here is very different.
Right.
So it's...
Because Twitter turned into such like the capital V, capital O, very online personality. Whereas Instagram kind of went more like, either absurdist or kind of influencer-y, kind of whatever.
Yeah, or just like, this is my day-to-day life. So
yeah.
Anyway. Okay, enough about those things. By the way, the Alabama Take is on all these things, except for Post. We're really not. I mean, we're on there, but don't. We won't respond to anything.
Is like ask an 18-year-old what they think of all of these things.
No, that's the thing Instagram's doing, Threads is doing, is those 18-year-olds are rolling in because they all have Instagram. Most of them have Instagram. So they're capturing that demographic.
Which was not on Twitter, right? For the most
part.
Not
much.
Not as much. I know they're all on TikTok, but...
Yeah.
They're all on Snapchat again, too.
Are they?
They rejoined Snapchat. Really?
Snapchat is like in college campuses. Snapchat is they don't even text each other. They just Snapchat each other.
Oh, that's 100% the thing in high school too. So Natalie is a college professor, and I teach high school. We can kind of compare and contrast. The other thing I'm noticing is once students turn 17, 18-ish, they get on Facebook like we did when we were in college. Yeah, it's becoming almost like I wonder if it's not a thing to have for certain college applications or something, because it's they're doing it, but you can tell they're also not using it. It's like they just wanted one.
Interesting. Like a LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I wonder if is it not connected? Can you have an Instagram account without since it's all meta now? Like,
I think so.
I don't know. Here's another thing that's come back. Yik Yak.
No.
The kids are yik yakking again.
No way.
Is it still completely random like it was?
Was it? I don't remember much about it other than it was just really mean.
Very.
You could.
I hated
It was
it.
Twitter, but it was like you didn't have to make an account, and there was no accountability for what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Lots of racism, lots of cruelty,
Yeah.
But
bullying.
that came out of. Do you guys remember Juicy Campus?
Yeah.
Vaguely.
It was like almost somewhere between like a message board presentation and Twitter. And then Yik Yak was the refined version of that a few years later.
That was like the nadir of civilization. Have we really gotten
yeah.
much better?
Yeah.
All right. Here's our official podcast beginnings. If you want more, we talked a lot about social media over on YouTube. We're gonna do a quick segment where I'm gonna talk about 4 shows, kind of in general. Definitely not spoiling anything, so stick around. I'm gonna offer up 4 shows, all of which I think could have promise, and then we'll talk a little about which I would pick out of the 4 that are happening. It's a lot to do with Apple TV Plus kind of being on the roll in the last month and a half. I'm going to start with the most recent one they started last week or 2. It's called Hijack, starring Idris Elba on a plane. And the title should tell you. I'm not going to say much more about plot. I will say that it is exciting in that early aughts kind of movie thriller used to be. It did make me worry at first if it needs to be a show, but still, it's just the watchability is very high as hell. I've watched 2 of the 3 episodes that are on right now, a new one this week. So,
How stressful is it?
Oh yeah, a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Scale of 1 to 10.
On
What's
stress?
the stress level? Yeah.
Well, I don't get that stress watching TV, so
Oh.
let me, for me, 4.5, 5.
So it's probably like an 8 or 9 for me.
Could be. Double it, yeah, double
No
it.
thanks.
Oh, I want you to watch it now. My second one, stick with Apple TV Plus for a second, is City on Fire. It's a couple of months old. It is a show that's classic in a vein where every character is somehow linked to one another, and it's up to you to stick with it to figure out what their relationship is or could be. It's all a matter of figuring out how, I think. That's part of the allure. It gets a lot more interesting in its second episode, which is where I am. The full season is now all on Apple, so it's been a couple months. Can it get over a couple of characters being especially stupid? That's what it's going to amount to. But these characters are 2004, pre-Twitter, pre-Facebook kind of thing. They're walking around with smartphones. They're not walking around with smartphones. They're walking around with flip phones.
Like Michael Cera.
Like Michael Cera today in 2023. Michael Cera. It's 2004 New York, dealing with a fictional New York music scene. Lots of winks and nods, I think, to Strokes-like music. You know what I mean?
I was going to say, do they fictionalize it a little bit?
Yeah, they totally fictionalize it because the music, other than the soundtrack, like the background music, is a fictional band.
Mm.
And it kind of revolves around this fictional band and what some of the things they're doing, as well as a bit of a Romeo and Juliet kind of love thing almost. It's kind of interesting. It's got those actors who are young and kind of up and coming, and you might have seen them in a small role on HBO, but they're not hitting their stride yet.
Right.
I'm going to hang out with it. The book by the same name, City on Fire, caught some flack with readers, but I think it got critical praise.
What was the flack?
I think too pretentious.
Oh, okay. Not like problematic flack, just critical
No.
flack. Gotcha.
Good question. No. Third is Silo. This one actually might be for Natalie. It's a
not a grand harvest.
Well, it's not. It's dystopian, futuristic, perhaps. Quite a mystery on what that's going to be. But everyone apparently is living in a silo type environment that seems to be underground, very, very, very deep. Like some of the characters talk about, it took me the full day to get down here. Spiral stairwell going down. Stars David Oyelowo, Rashida Jones, Tim Robbins. So the cast is pretty good. The acting's good. The story, I think they kind of messed up with the first episode. It feels like the first episode could have been the first 10 minutes of the second episode. But hang in there, because the second episode did get good. Took the whole first episode to lay out its kind of big idea, mission, plot. It was intriguing, but it was slow. And David Oyelowo's the sheriff of the silo, and no one really knows what's going on other than they're in this silo and they never should ever leave. And it's been 140 years since anybody tried to make a change.
What are you smiling about, Nat?
Oh, I'm just going through all the possibilities of what the show could possibly be about, and all my ideas are really stupid.
Oh, tell me.
I'm just laughing at myself.
I won't yes or no anything if it's happened.
Well, my first thought is, this is a show that's just going to be a giant metaphor for community building, and going outside your silo and finding other communities to make yourself stronger. It's not really a reach on that one. And what was the other? There was something
pretty
else.
Good. I'm not going to acknowledge that's wrong or right.
That's
interesting.
every why doesn't this business work? Why doesn't this college work? It's because we're siloed. That's just like a buzzword.
Mm-hmm.
So
really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like shows before the people leave their happy little ruts.
Give me an example of one.
You want the hobbits to stay in the Shire.
Yeah. Let's see a 2-hour film of Frodo and Sam making decisions about when they're going to plant the spring vegetable garden. And
isn't there a PBS veterinary show that's just basically that, kind of? It's just so gentle and nice that...
Maybe so.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hadn't seen that one. That sounds like it's for me, though.
Yeah.
But this is good, where Natalie doesn't like to be stressed while watching stuff. And I'll watch a hero's journey. I'm not against it. Just, maybe some slow TV would be nice, too. How do they get water to the silo? Let's have a 5-episode arc.
They're growing plants. They're growing plants hydrophonically. Now, where the water's coming from, don't know. It looks to be
urine.
Could be.
Could be. Yeah.
Recycled urine. I do know at the very bottom of the silo, there's engineering that keeps lights on. That's not a big spoiler or anything. You knew that something like that had to be taking place. The fourth of my shows, maybe not fair to lump this one in. It's a HBO staple at this point. At least the actor is. The Righteous Gemstones is in its fourth season? Third. This show is good in its first 2 seasons because it's such a great balance of actual plot-driven stuff, but 30-minute comedy, lots of cussing stuff. And the first 2 seasons were so good because of that. This season hasn't really established what it wants its plot to be, and it's already 4 episodes deep. So that's causing the balance to be just a little off. If you've watched the first 2 seasons, you're thinking, well, what do they want to do here? Walton Goggins is on the show and plays an uncle. And they held off on showing him this season until recently. And once he starts showing up, boy, it's always a good hang and just stupid funny. So I can recommend the first 2 seasons of it thoroughly. the first 4 of the third, it'd probably be fine, but interesting to see if they can figure out what direction they really want to go. So they're your 4.
Of the 3 new ones, if you were going to pick one to have us watch tonight, which one would you pick?
Hijack was the one that gripped me the most.
Natalie's out.
I'm not watching it. Either he's on a plane.
He's on a plane.
No, thank you. Not if I'm getting on a plane within 4 weeks of watching a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to watch a thing about a plane going wrong.
Are you?
Yes.
Oh.
So no, thank you.
My second pick of the 4, or excuse me, the 3 new ones on Apple TV would be Silo. I think Silo really gets a lot better with that second episode, and it gives you a little bit more mystery, but answers a little bit. You know, it doesn't do that thing where it's going to hold out on everything.
Right.
Is this going to have like an M. Night Shyamalan twist where
that's kind of where
eventually
I thought you were
get
going.
out of the Shiloh?
They like convinced people to go down there, even though it wasn't necessary.
And the world just passed them by.
Something's going on. Yeah, something's going on because they're holding off on that. And City on Fire, I think you guys would like. I do think you'd like, because it's got a diverse range of characters, and that band up to something kind of might interest you a little. The era might be a little interesting, though they don't seep you in the era enough other than everybody having a flip phone. I wish they would. I'd like to see some.
It's not like, what was that other show? Vinyl? That was
it's much
okay,
better.
And then it got really bad.
Dear God, that got bad so quickly. Like 3rd episode, boom, I was out. I remember bemoaning that show so badly on Twitter, speaking of our social media talk. Anyway, one of those 3 might come up next week in our conversation if you're a regular listener. I could recommend the 3 of those new ones. If you haven't seen the Righteous Gemstones, get on board with that one. It's good. Let's take a break. We'll come back and talk the most recent episode of Secret Invasion.
And I'll dip.
You're going to dip.
Yep.
Goodbye to Adam.
Bye
and
forever.
We'll see you. Secret Invasion. Probably not a lot for me to say. What about you?
I mean, yeah, not much.
Yeah. So, I still think it's okay. It's an okay show. There's small things I think the show does well, but it's only on occasion, does really well. The detail about how Gravik loves sugar in his coffee is just the kind of weird, quirky thing. I think if you do it, and you don't really have a purpose, it can be kind of just fun.
It was a little like Men in Black throwback when the roach guy just keeps asking for sugar in his water.
Are they trying to play on that? Is it a nod?
I don't know, but that's all I can think of.
I'm really worried they're going to use that in the 6th episode to be like some big plot point.
Maybe
I don't want
it's got to be. So he's already a Super Skrull.
Uh-huh.
It's got to be like he's burning so much energy now that he's got to have the sugar to keep his metabolism going.
And Kingsley Benadir, he played it so well. I'm not sure what his direction would have been, but it's like when Ben Mendelsohn's character Talos asked him about it, he's like, he makes a funny little joke that you hear all the time about,
he likes a little espresso in his sugar or something.
That was the joke. Yeah, I like my sugar with coffee. Yeah, it's the old joke. Why not continue to do things like that? Again, I'm working under the assumption that they're not going to make this some sort of big, huge plot thing. Why not do that with your characters? You've got the 6 hours rather than the 2. Give them quirks. Give them funny things.
Yeah, it's great.
I like that. I know critics aren't a big fan of this show.
I mean, I don't care what the critics say about this show.
We usually don't. There are a few whose opinion I will nod along with on occasion, and I realize I don't always agree with them. The very end of this episode, I'll go all the way to the end of the voice on the phone with Fury's wife as she's walking to take some action. It sounded like Don Cheadle's. Did you see any
I can't remember.
So she's walking through an airport or train station. And she's decided to take it upon herself to take action. We're not quite sure on which direction she's going to go. But then she gets a phone call. And I think it's Don Cheadle's voice, which means it's Rhodey. Don't know. I figured you would be on top of confirming that kind of thing.
I missed it. I know that I watched this episode, but I don't for some reason I can't today place when that was. Must have been Friday night. I don't remember.
It's not a very eventful episode, though. It was, it wasn't boring necessarily. I love the Gravik multiplying. That was in the trailer, but when he stands up after he's being threatened by Talos, there's suddenly a bunch of him there in the cafeteria.
Yeah, that was a good effect, I thought.
Yeah. The voice on the phone could be Don Cheadle's. We'll find out probably next week. Samuel L. Jackson makes the line, "No one calls me Nick." And I noticed that had a lot of people scrambling to wonder, how far back can we go with this? Has anybody ever called him Nick? Did Tony Stark call him Nick?
Doesn't he say in Captain America, not Captain America, Captain Marvel, in that movie, she calls him Nick when they first meet, and he says something like, "Not even my mom calls me Nick."
Oh, really?
I think so. Like, it's some just like throwaway line.
At the end of every episode, you get that choice to watch Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think, I'll just watch it. Why not? Just, as I drift off to sleep, I might.
Yeah.
But Sonia calls him Nicholas, or I don't think she calls him that. She does reference the owl's name's going to be Nicholas or something with the little patch. There's something Sonia drops that some of our listeners might be interested in. She says that these events should put someone's men on their heels, and the someone is the villain from Black Widow, the Russian guy. I don't think he had any powers. He was just over the production of those Black Widow.
Yeah.
She
Isn't
says
he dead?
It seems like it, but I've seen a message board that think that was his name that was mentioned. And they're in Russia. I don't know. If they do that, that is really trying to tie up a bunch of odd threads into one.
It's like they're just setting up for the Thunderbolts or whatever when 2 Black Widows basically are coming back.
Which 2?
What's her name? Florence Pugh's character and the daughter, the bad guy's daughter that was the robot character. I don't remember their names.
Yeah, some of this is starting to blur together. If Marvel is going to insist on using tiny things like that, I wish they'd put them in the recap at the beginning.
We need like a pop-up video version of these shows.
That's what we should do. I don't have the time for that, but that would be really interesting. Last note, and I made it earlier, I just think Kingsley Ben-Adir is doing really good as Gravik. He's a villain that I like to watch on screen. I'm like, his reactions are, I said it in the first episode, they're kind of like an asshole reaction. Mm-hmm. Especially when he's talking to Gaia. She'll say something and he'll look at her like, "I'm smarter than you." And
yeah, I think overall the acting this for this series has been far and away better than the other. Well, there were a couple standouts in some other shows, but yeah, overall, I think this is the best cast.
And that's Marvel's huge bonus, is they got the money to get really good actors. Yeah. It's like Ben Mendelsohn. He's just you really feel like, okay, he means what he's saying, and like you've said before, that's what they're paid to do. But still, top notch. Kingsley Ben-Adir is a little younger than the rest of the cast, so it's kind of, he and Emilia Clarke are probably she's probably a good bit older than him even. She just is a young looking woman. Any notes, ideas that I didn't point out?
I do think this episode, and I think we've talked about this in other shows, but it's kind of nice when a show will, like, there's the good guys, there's the bad guys, and then there's the people that are caught in between that have opinions about things, but aren't, like, yeah, a lot of the Skrulls aren't happy with their lot in life. They want a home. They want a place where they feel like they can be themselves and belong. That doesn't make them bad guys, though, because those also aren't the extremists. So
Right.
It's kind of, I like it when these shows give us that third point of view.
It's a dab
And
of
I think this
nuance.
episode did that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, Fury's wife, she's
Right.
married to a human. She's not wanting to wipe out the human population just to have a place to live, but at the same time, she's got friends, family, whatever, that are Skrulls. It makes sense. Donovan pointed out a while back that this is kind of a thought exercise on refugees. They haven't really tried to drill that home. I guess that's probably for the good.
Yeah, I think maybe they had to pick, and they picked let's push the Russia, and maybe that could be our one thing.
The spy kind of thing, yeah. Although I don't think they're hitting their points with being a spy thriller. I just think it's relatively entertaining, and
Yeah.
when it comes out on Wednesday, I watch it on Wednesday. So that's always a plus. I don't put anything in front of it almost ever.
That's good. That's
Yeah,
my
that's-
weekend watch, but
Is it your week?
just 'cause-
Okay.
Yeah. Just because
Yeah.
Adam doesn't watch it, so I just wait till he's out or he's asleep. So
I'm always appreciative too of a nice little compact 45-minute episode of something. I've
yeah,
gotten,
and there hasn't been like the gotta wait for the mid credits, whatever the hell. That's been
yeah.
kind of
They
nice.
avoid that with their shows almost always, I think.
There was a few that they were doing it, and then there was a couple of episodes in a series where like they would just do it in like one or two episodes, so you would never really know if you missed one or not, and that's just stupid.
That was She-Hulk,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. Still kind of sort of enjoying Secret Invasion. I mean, it's not the greatest thing, but I don't think it's Disney Plus's worst Marvel show ever by a long shot.
I think it's a very entertaining way to spend 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's kind of a comfort type watch, but more on the entertainment level of comfort than like a Somebody Somewhere kind of comfort.
Right.
All right, well, that's it for us this week. Talk to us online. We're all over social media for now until one or two of them fall off the face of the earth. So see everybody next week if you're on YouTube, and we'll just talk to you if you're listening to us in a podcast app. Thanks.